Hey guys, what's going on? So recently I have been taking some front-end interviews and I have made an observation, and that is that a lot of candidates have good knowledge on JavaScript frameworks like React.js and Vue.js and AngularJS, but the fundamentals are not in place. What I mean by that is the basics of web development, that is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, are not in place. So if you want to become a good front-end developer, you should be good with the basics. And today's tutorial is an attempt to bridge that gap. I have seen a lot of developers who are not comfortable with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So in today's session, we're going to use these fundamentals and build a short application. So guys, this is what we're going to build today: a fortune teller application. So basically, there is this magic 8 ball. Most of you might already know what a magic 8 ball does, but for those who are new to this, magic 8 ball basically is a game that children play. So if you shake this magic 8 ball, it gives you an answer. So the answer is either one of these three. First is a yes, second is a no, and third is try again later. So you ask a closed ended question to this magic 8 ball and it will give you an answer. For example, let me ask a question. um, uh, will Cristiano Ronaldo win the World Cup this year? Outlook not so good. Okay. um, if you are a teenage boy or a girl, you might probably have a question like, uh, does she like me or does he like me? It is decidedly so, which means a yes. If you are someone my age, you'd probably have questions like, should I order food from Zomato tonight? Yes. All right. So, this is what we're going to build. If you look at this application, it might feel that it is a relatively tiny application, and it is actually tiny. It is easy to implement this, but there are certain things that we're going to look while development. So basically, we're going to divide our entire development activity into three parts. First, we're going to create the structure of this application using HTML. Then we're going to work on the formatting, which is CSS. And towards the end, we're going to use JavaScript for our application logic. So let's get started. Oh, one more thing. I am going to use VS Code as my code editor for this tutorial. If you want to install VS Code, you basically uh, type VS Code on Google and you should be able to download it. It's free, it's lightweight, it shouldn't take much time to install. So, yeah, let's get started. Okay, so before we start the development, there's just one thing that I forgot to mention, and that is about this GitHub repository. So I have created a GitHub repo for our application. In case you want to directly go and check out the code, you can do that by going to this URL. Let me know in the comment section if you need the reference to this URL. I'll add it in the description box. Okay, so let's get started. We are going to use VS Code. Let me open it up on my system since I have it installed already. Okay, all right. What I'll do is I'll create a new folder for this project. Let's say fortune teller, and we're going to open this up on our VS Code. All right. So when it comes to building an application using pure HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, this is something that I always do. I create three files. The first is index.html, the second is styles.css, and the third is script.js. Okay, we're going to focus on index.html. Now there's an extension that I've used. I would recommend that you also install it on your VS Code, that is autocomplete tag. And prettier is also something that will format your code automatically. Live server is the third extension that I would recommend that you use, because then uh, you don't have to load your refresh your browser every time you're making a change. So these are the three things that I would recommend that you add on your VS Code. It's not mandatory, it's something that I use, and I feel that it speeds up the development. So I'll give you an example of how this speeds up the development. Now within the index.html, instead of writing the entire boilerplate, what I can do is I can simply click on shift plus exclamation mark, and if I hit enter, it gives me this boilerplate. So I don't have to write all this up. Okay, now we're going to change the title to, let's say, Magic 8 Fortune Teller, and then we're going to open this up with the live server. Okay, I'm going to keep this at the left hand side so that we have both the screens available for us. We can do things side by side. Okay, so let's start with the structure of the application. What we want is a heading tag. I'll give it a heading of, let's say, h3, and we'll add fortune teller. If I hit enter, it is coming here properly as we need it. We'll add a paragraph tag, uh, which will give a description. Just ask a question and click below to see what the Magic 8 ball has to say. I'll just increase the font size so that we don't have a problem with understanding things. Okay, and then we're going to have a div tag, which is going to be our Magic 8 ball. So let's keep it as it is for now. We're going to add a paragraph, and it will have this value. For best accuracy, be sure to concentrate very hard on your question. Okay, now there's just one more thing that, so this is how, okay, this is what we've currently built, and this is what we are aiming for. Now if you look at this Magic 8 ball, this is not a image. This is actually built using CSS and HTML. uh, we could have used an image, but we have built it using HTML and CSS. And the reason is because see, an image is at the end of the day an asset, and it needs to be loaded separately. uh, and oftentimes it takes some time for the browser to load an image. So instead of depending on a separate file which is an image, we are rendering it using our HTML code, which is much faster, which gets loaded faster onto the browser. So that's one of the reasons why we are doing this. That's also one of the reasons why we use SVGs instead of other types of images, because SVGs can be easily interpreted by our browser. They get easily loaded uh, into our browsers. Okay, so if you look at this particular Magic 8 ball, we have an outer container, a div container. We have an inner container which is white in color. Okay, so these two are clearly visible. There are also some other circles that are not clearly visible. So let's understand them properly. At the top, we have this oval shaped circle. Let's call it a spotlight. So that is also a div container. We have this circle here, which is, let's say, upper shadow. And we have a similar circle here, which is our lower shadow. And then we have this fourth circle, which is the background shadow. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. There are total 6 circles which are combining to make this magic 8 ball. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a div tag, which is the parent. Inside it we'll have another div tag, and inside this we'll have the 8 written. And then we'll have those 4 circles. Now this might not make sense, so let's add some classes to it. Okay, so we're going to use BEM convention. If you don't know BEM, you should definitely check it out. BEM convention. It's a very famous way to name your CSS classes so that there is consistency across your application. The BEM in BEM stands for blocks, elements, and modifiers. So do check it out if you think that it is useful in your projects. Okay, so this is going to be a magic ball outer container. We'll also give it an ID because we want to use it in JavaScript. So we'll call it MB container. This will have a class of magic ball underscore inner underscore inner. So we use double underscores in BEM conventions. Okay, and H3 will also have a class of magic ball underscore response. We'll also give it an ID because we want to maintain the state of this particular H3 tag. Then we'll add a class here, magic ball underscore spotlight. Spotlight is for this particular circle. Okay, I'll just copy this up and paste it. For the other 3 circles, this is going to be BG underscore shadow. Let's give this the name of magic ball underscore upper underscore shadow, and let's give this the name of upper and lower shadow. Since we are adding classes to our magic 8 ball, let's add classes to the other tags also. Okay, so what we can do is we can give our H3 fortune teller title as app underscore title, and all the paragraph tags can have a class of app underscore info. We also have one more paragraph tag at the bottom, so I think okay, so there's no change on the HTML end at this moment, but our HTML code is, I think, ready. So we've added all the HTML tags, we've added classes. So one thing that the web developers generally follow is, it's not mandatory, it's something that we follow, is we use classes so that they can be used in our CSS, and we use IDs so that we can use them in our JavaScript. This is not mandatory. You can use classes as well as IDs in JavaScript, and vice versa for CSS, but generally we use IDs so that we can target them on the JavaScript end, and classes for CSS. So okay, so I think we've not added our CSS to our HTML document, so let's do that. So this is one more shortcut that you can do if all right. So now that the HTML portion is completed, let's head over to the styles section. So the first thing that I always do is I remove the default margins and paddings to all the HTML elements, and I keep the box sizing as border box. The next thing that I would do is, since I want this to be a mobile first application, I would remove the extra tap highlight that is generally present. So we're going to keep it transparent. This is something that I normally do before building an application. Uh, we're going to give, okay, we don't need to do it right now. Okay, so let's start with the body. What we can do is give the body of a width of 100 viewport width, and a height of 100 vh, so that we don't have to see a scroll on our application. We're going to give it a background of let's say it's a black color. So let's try this. Okay, we're going to change the font color to CCC. Let's see if it works. Okay, now instead of giving a solid color to the background, I would probably give a linear gradient. So I have come up with these 4-5 hexadecimal colors which look good. Okay, so this is looking good. Let's give it a padding as well of 1 rem. 1 rem in this case is equal to 16 pixels. It's not the case always, but for this particular scenario it is the case. What else can we do? We want to center everything, so the way I do it is by using flexbox. So we are going to do a display flex. The default direction is a row. We want it as column so that everything is one below the other. Okay, and then we're going to justify it to the center. Oh, so this is horizontally center. Now we want to make it vertically center. So align items center, and now it is at the exact center. Not looking very good, but it's still looking fine. Alphabets are sticking to each other, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a letter spacing of, let's say, 0.1 rem, and it is maybe looking a little bit better. Okay, now let's handle things one by one. Let's focus on the app title. So we'll give the app title a font size of 3 rem maybe. Okay, we'll transform the text to uppercase. Okay, uh, what else can we do? We'll give it a padding of 2 rem. Let's see how it works. Letter spacing we don't need. Font weight, let's keep it as 300. Okay, the next thing that we want is our app underscore underscore info. Let's target that. Let's keep it as text align, let's keep it as justified, and text justify, let's keep it as enter word. So basically we are word wrapping our uh, content. uh, and we're going to increase the font size to 1.5 rem. Okay, we'll give a line height of 1. Maybe 6 rem. Line height is the height between the two lines, so if I want to space in between them, I can use a line height. You don't need a padding or a margin to do that. You can simply use this property. Okay, what else can we do? We'll also give it a padding of 0 top and bottom, and left and right we'll give it 1 rem. We'll give it a margin of let's say 2 rem top and bottom, 0 left and right. Okay, now it is starting to look similar to our application. Okay, now we're going to focus on our magic 8 ball. This is where things get interesting. Magic ball underscore underscore outer. Okay, so we'll give it a width of let's say 300 pixels and a height of 300 pixels, and let's give it a background of 000 so that we can see it. Okay, now we want it as a rounded container, so we're going to give a border radius of 50%. Okay, looking good. We'll add a display flex so that we can put everything at the center. Justify content center, align items center. Okay, so the 8 is at the exact center now. We'll also give it a margin top of 2 rem and 0 at the on the left and right side. So that just adds some space between our paragraph tag and our magic 8 ball. What else can we do? Let's give this a background of 111 instead of 000. Uh, so we'll also give this a box shadow. Now the box shadow that we're going to add here is a neomorphic version of box shadow. Uh, so neomorphism is basically, I'll just show it to you. So this is how you create neomorphic shadows. They look good, that's why I've used this particular generator. Okay, so as you can see, it has a nice shadow to it now. Okay, now the next thing that we want is let's focus on the inner magic 8 ball. We'll give this a width of 150 pixels and a height of 150 pixels. Okay, and we'll give it a background of white, which is FFF. Now it's looking like a square, so we're going to change the border radius to 50%. Okay, this is looking good. We'll give it a display flex, justify content center. So this will horizontally make it at the center. We want to make it vertically as well. Okay, so now we have a magic 8 ball kind of structure. Inside the magic ball underscore inner, we have a magic ball underscore response, which is this 8. So what we're going to do is we're going to increase the font size to 8 rem, maybe magic ball. Okay, we'll give it a text align of center. Color will change to 2, which is 222, which is a shade of black. And we're also going to add some line height, because when this 8 changes to some sentence, at that time it will be applicable. Okay, so we have a magic 8 ball. Now we're going to add uh, the shadows to make it look even better. So how we do that is we'll create a spotlight. We'll have bg underscore shadow, and we have upper underscore shadow. We also have a lower underscore shadow. Okay, so all these 4 things are going to be positioned absolutely. Now for something to work as absolute, its parent needs to be relative. This is the rule. So the parent is magic ball underscore underscore outer, this entire thing. So what we are going to do is we're going to give it a position, position of relative. Now we can give this a position of absolute. It's going to be applicable for all. Okay, now let's focus on the first one, which is the spotlight. Let's give a width of 250 pixels, a height of 250 pixels. Uh, we'll give a top of 5 pixels, so it will be position 5 pixels from the top of the parent. We'll give it a border radius of 50%, of course. We'll give it a background of 333, and opacity of 0.2. Sorry, my bad. Okay, so we have this one particular spotlight circle. It doesn't look that good at this moment, but I hope it does after we add some more code. So let's go to the shadow. Width and height of 175 pixels. Let's give it a top of 0 pixels. And we're going to give a border radius, of course, of 50%, so that we have a rounded border. Background, we're going to give it as, let's say, AAA. Or maybe 666. AA is not looking, it won't look good. Let's give it an opacity of 0.2, and Z index, we would probably need it, but let's see why this is not working, because there's an extra underscore that needs to be there. Okay, so Z index needs to be there. This particular inner circle should have a Z index of, let's say, I think 999. So we can add that here. Okay, now the next thing that we want to do is upper and lower. So again, We're going to give this a width of 75 pixels, a height of 75 pixels. Background opacity of 0.8, and of course border radius of 50%. So instead of this, if we keep it like this looks great. We can have the same thing at the bottom with some minor changes, and that would be 175 pixels, 175 pixels. All right, so our HTML and CSS is complete. We can move on to the JavaScript part of the code. So we have our index.html file, and at the end, just before the body tag closes, we want to add a script tag. Basically, we are going to embed our script.js file into our HTML code, and we do that at the end of our HTML document because JavaScript usually manipulates the DOM, and for JavaScript to get access to these HTML tags, it needs to be first loaded onto the browser. So that's the reason why we write the script at the end, so that it is rendered or it is executed only when the HTML documentation is loaded. So now we've added a script.js file. We need access to this particular Magic 8 ball. So we've given it an ID of MB container. And one more thing that we need an access of is this 8, because instead of this 8, we're going to show the value. So for example, if I click on this, it is animating, and eventually this 8 is replaced with whatever is the answer of the Magic 8 ball. So that's the reason why we've given an ID to response as well. Let's head over to the JavaScript part. Now we can access the HTML in JavaScript using document.getElementById, and we're going to give an ID of MB container, which is magic ball container, and document.getElementById, which is response. Using these two, we have references to those HTML tags. We can store this in a variable. So let's give it a meaningful name. Sorry. Okay. Now a magic ball can have a limited number of responses, and these are the responses that a magic 8 ball can give. Okay, so I'm putting it into an array. Now basically, let's understand the logic of our application. We want to write an event handler which basically handles the click event on this magic 8 ball. Whenever a user clicks on this magic 8 ball, it should randomly select any one of these values. Okay, so we're going to write a logic for that. The way we write that logic is we get the reference to this magic 8 ball and we add an event listener to this click event. When this click event is called, is when a user clicks on this magic 8 ball, this function, callback function, will get executed. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to uh, generate an index. So for that we're going to use math.floor math.random. So math.random is going to give us a random value from 0 to 1 in decimals. We're going to convert that into 20 because we have 20, the size of our array is 20. And we're going to use math.floor so that we convert the decimal into an integer. And that is how we'll get the index. And then we can get the message or the output easily by using options of index, where options is nothing but all these options. Now that we have the message with us, we just want to put it in response. So we can say response dot text content is equal to message, and this should work. Oh, sorry, this is our application. Okay, so if I click on this, it is working. It is giving the value like this because the font size is, I think, 8 rem. So we want to change the font size as well whenever a user clicks on it. So the way to do that using JavaScript is response.textContent, not text content, response.style.font-size is equal to 1 rem, let's say 1.1, let's say. Okay. So now we see the output. If we click on it again, we can see the output is changing. So this is working. But what we want to do is we want to first of all have a pointer cursor. So I'll change that quickly. I'll give this a cursor of pointer. Now if you look, the cursor is changed when I hover over this magic 8 ball. Oh, sorry. This needs to be on the outer. Okay. The next thing that we want to do is we want to run an animation. So the way we can do that is whenever a user is clicking on this magic 8 ball, we're going to add a class called as, let's say, animate, and it will get animated. And after, let's say, 3 seconds or 4 seconds, you want to remove that class, so it will stop animating. So the way to do that would be we can have a set timeout of let's say 3 seconds, and what will happen is we'll keep this response inside. We'll also keep this font size change inside this timeout, and outside what we're going to do is we're going to do response dot or maybe magic 8 ball dot class name, and we'll give it a class, add a class of animate, and inside after 3 seconds we're going to remove this animate. So now if I click on this, sorry, something is not working. If I click on this, after 3 seconds it should change. It is changing. The animation is not happening because we haven't added the animate class in CSS. So let's do that quickly. At the end, we're going to add an animate class. We're going to give it an animation name of let's say shake it maybe. Animation duration will be of 3 seconds. Animation iteration count, let's keep it as 1. We only want to run it once when a user clicks on it. Timing function, let's keep it as ease. There are different options: ease, ease in, ease out. So I tried different combinations and I think ease is something that is working for me. You can change it as per your convenience. Animation fill mode is, let's keep it uh, forwards. And then we're going to add keyframe. This is how we actually add animations. So we're going to tell our browser what should happen uh, when the animation is running. So translate is basically changing the position of our magic 8 ball. Then we're going to rotate it. Initially it's going to be 0 degrees, no change. We can scale it by 10%, which is 1.1. Okay. And this we can add as many times as we want. I'm going to add it 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 1, 10 times. So this is 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and I'll add one more, which is 100. Okay. Now you can add anything here as per your creativity. I'm going to, so basically I've added it like this. Now if you see, okay, if I click again, it will wait for 3 seconds and then change the answer. If I click on it again, it will wait for some time and then it will change the answer. There's just one thing, this white color is not looking good. So let's change that part. I think it's the spotlight, right? So basically what we are trying to do here is, let me open this up properly. So whenever a user clicks on the magic 8 ball, this particular class will be added to the magic 8 container and this animation will run. So the animation is defined here at the bottom using keyframes. The duration is 3 seconds. So 3 seconds is divided into 10 different parts, 10 different intervals. And we are basically telling the browser what needs to be done in each interval. In the initial interval, we're going to keep the translate to 0, 0, which is no change. There will be no rotation. The scaling, that is the magic 8, will increase in size by 10%, x and y. Then we're going to translate, that is move the magic 8 ball a little bit. We'll rotate it as well. We're going to increase the scale as well by 30%. And we keep doing this in different ways, different combinations. And at the end, we bring it to the original position. So that's the idea. Uh, so yeah, we are we finished the development of this. Do let me know in the comment section if you liked watching this video. Last thing that we want to do is we want to deploy this application somewhere. and we're going to do it on GitHub. So if you don't already have a GitHub account, you can go to github.com and register. And once you register, basically, this is how your profile will look like. On the left hand side, you have this button new. So you can click on that button and we can add the name of our repository. Let's say fortune teller. You can click on create repository. It has all these options. We can select this upload an existing file, choose your files, and I can select these three files, click on open, and commit the changes. They are now available here. The next thing that I do to deploy this is go to settings, click on this pages button on the left hand side. Now the source I'll select as the main branch, and root, click on the save button, and it says your site is ready to be published at this location. So basically it is getting ready for deployment. If we give it some time, it should turn green. This blue color will turn green. That basically tells us that the deployment is complete. So we'll wait for some time. Click. What I'll do is I'll copy this link and I can put it in my resume. I can share it with my friends or family members. Right now it is showing 404 because the page is not yet deployed. So I'll keep on refreshing it a couple of times. Maybe go back to code and go to settings again. Your site is published. So now if I click on refresh, the site should open. Yes, it is opening. Let's see if it is working. Okay, it is working. Alright, so if you enjoyed watching this video, do subscribe to the channel. Let me know if